be serious about television.
Well, there's
music.
a lot of humor in it that an awful lot of the writers miss, actually.
Yeah.
It's not that it's a joke, but there is like, in almost every song there is a lighter line or a kind of almost a deliberately throwaway or funny line that just indicates other possibilities, I guess. But I think the fans don't see it or even don't hear it that way. To them it's just a rock thing. It's like the two guitars, bass and drums. It's a kind of classic format. And it's also a format, actually it's a little bit back now because of the Seattle bands, you know. There tend to be two guitars in these, but they both tend to play the same things, I've noticed, you know, this kind of whacking away at the chord thing up and down the neck. You don't have a lot of exploration going on with them. And likewise in the 80s, it seemed to be a lot of single guitar bands like REM and U2, where you had a kind of pared down thing going on, I think.
Well, speaking of the guitar thing, I mean, that is, I guess, the signature of television is the distinctive interaction and dynamics between your playing and Richard's playing. What do you each bring to that stylistically, and what happens when it sort of comes together?
Well, it very rarely comes together. Most of it's rehearsing and hashing things out, and yeah, I mean, I tend to come in with a song, meaning a melody and a lyric, you know, and something to sing, and then which sort of dictates a chord structure. But I tend not to like just to hear a guy strumming chords, you know. So then it's down to making up parts that add something to it while not cluttering it. So it's a lot of rehearsal, and it's a lot of sometimes Richard will play a part or a rhythmic figure or something. Doesn't quite fit at first, but then if we move it to the chorus, all of a sudden it sounds good, you know. So there's a lot of this, in a way, because I'm always standing in the middle, I always hear what's going on from the guitar and the bass and the drum, whereas Richard doesn't hear the bass and he doesn't really hear me that well, so you have this confusion. So I'm there, even in the rehearsal room, I can hear it all and go, well, this is that, and this note's a little off, and this. So there really is a lot of time put into arranging things, changing things.
How do you see each other's distinctive guitar styles, though? Because on their own, they seem to be, you know, certainly fairly distinctive. I guess I've always viewed your style as being a little more dry and fluid, but Richard's being more sort of chunky and more rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, our manager said that the other night. He said if you listen to his solo records, they tend to be the bar chord thing with the little bits, and if you listen to mine, they tend to be much more swirled around the vocal or in counterpoint to the vocal or arranged, and it might be different backgrounds, because we were talking the other day and he came out of, I think his main introduction to music was rock and roll guitar players or blues Buddy Guy or Jeff Beck, for instance, in the late 60s, and with me I was taking piano when I was a kid, so I really loved classical music for years, and then when I was 11 I got into saxophone and just liked nothing but jazz for like 5 years, and I really didn't even like guitar for years. I thought in jazz I thought guitar was the wimp instrument. It was always sort of playing these smushy chords under it. I thought, yuck, you know.
Tom Verlain, founding member of seminal New York punk band Television, died Saturday at the age of 73 after a brief illness, according to a news release from Jessie Pally Smith, the daughter of Verlain's former partner Patti Smith. Verlain died peacefully in New York City, surrounded by close friends, according to that release. The guitarist, raised in Wilmington, Delaware, was noted for his angular lyricism and pointed lyrical asides, a sly wit, and an ability to shake each string to its truest emotion, the release added. In a comment emailed to CNN, and Sandy Smith told CNN she met Verlain not long after her own father had passed away. In him, I felt the energy of a father, a man to hug, to laugh with, to share jokes and wild imagination. Smith said, "He was the perfect friend and support for me as a little girl." I think every person who was lucky enough to be close to Tom had their own version of this experience. Whether through friendship or work, with Tom, you had your own shared language, understanding and universe, something so precious and rare, a one-of-a-kind relationship with a true reality of a soul, she added. His television bandmate, Jimmy Rip, called verlain blindingly smart, incredibly well-read, as well as surely silly. Thank you so much for watching, and may his soul rest in peace.